YouTube. Welcome to the #1 college football show. I am your host, RJ Young. Thank you for watching on the Fox Sports app, YouTube, or listening wherever you get your podcast. Today, we are going to go through our Week 5 mailbag as we get ready for some of the delicious games on tap, including Michigan at Iowa, North Carolina State at Clemson, and perhaps only important to me, Oklahoma at Texas Christian as we're coming off a loss, which I'm sure we're going to talk quite a bit about. And to get into the questions that you want answered and the takes that you have given the #1 college football show, I want to bring in producer Tyler. That is the one Tyler Wojak, Notre Dame Tyler. Producer Tyler, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
I'm good, brother. You know, like we're taping this on a Thursday, but I'd be remiss if I didn't tell everybody I'm a little bit down in the dumps. I'm a little bit beside myself because I need the U.S. men's national team to pull its head out from whatever I saw against Saudi Arabia on Tuesday. I don't need to see Christian Pulisic throwing his armband up at Tyler Adams and not shaking Greg Berhalter's name. We got a World Cup to play in like 6 weeks. Other than that, I'm good.
All right. Well, they got 6 weeks to figure it out. Now let's get to the American football because we got some questions this week. Some that you asked. One, a pretty good one. This one comes from Sean Poe, a listener. Shout out to our fan-submitted questions. We need more of these. So good here, Sean. Sean asks, many believe Michigan is Ohio State's biggest threat in the Big Ten, but is it actually Penn State that will be their biggest test of the season?
You know, I have to give this some thought, and after thinking about it for half a second, hell no. Like, no. The only team Ohio State has to worry about in the Big Ten is Ohio State. Seriously, it's going to be one of these games where the offense or the defense, probably the offense, does not show up to do their part a la Notre Dame to start the season, and then they're going to be in a dogfight. I can't tell you if that's going to be Penn State. I can't tell you if that's going to be Michigan State. Certainly can't tell you that that's going to be Michigan because they are going to be dead set focused on destroying Michigan after they got challenged by them last year, run over by Hassan Haskins and that offense en route to a Big Ten championship and the college football playoff that many folks thought was going to be Ohio State's, despite the loss to Oregon. I don't know from Penn State, man. Like, Penn State for me right now feels a lot like Iowa, except that Iowa played a good Iowa State football team. I don't know that Auburn is in the same hemisphere as Iowa State. And if you watch Auburn football, you know exactly what I'm talking about. One guy's head coach is being talked about for the Nebraska job. One guy's head coach is being talked about as being replaced by Deion Sanders, who coaches at Jackson State HBCU FCS school. I'm telling you that if Penn State wants to turn that into a ball game with Ohio State, you have my full attention. But I don't think that that is really the one that Ohio State is going to be worried about. I just don't see it. Tyler, am I way off base here? What do you think, man?
I disagree with you slightly because I feel like the only reason why Penn State could be their biggest test is because Ohio State doesn't take that game as seriously as they should. It could be a letdown game because I would agree that Michigan, from a talent standpoint, top to bottom, they're probably going to be Ohio State's biggest test, but there's just no way I see Ohio State losing that game because I feel like they've been plotting their revenge since the moment that clock struck 0 last November. They've been obsessed with it in the offseason, both in front of the camera and a little bit behind closed doors. I feel like they are so dead set on that game and getting revenge. I think they might blow them out. Now it's a rivalry, so blowouts don't always happen. But it reminds me of when, after they had lost to Clemson in the Fiesta Bowl, they predicated their entire offseason around getting rematch. And that game wasn't even on the schedule. Ended up working out. They ended up playing them in the college football playoff. And we all saw what happened there. They ran a Trevor Lawrence-led Clemson team off the field. Now that Michigan is basically taking that role, I don't see any way Ohio State is going to let another loss happening in there. So maybe at Penn State, I don't think it'll be a whiteout because they usually do those at night. It's a stripe out, I think, is what they do during the day games. So that's the only reason why I could think Penn State has a chance of knocking them off, just because Ohio State doesn't take it as seriously.
It worked for Tennessee against Florida, but then again, you know, you basically got the same sort of team that you're facing. And no, you don't, because Florida ain't any good. Look, the part about that I really just want to hammer home is the part you made about, one, they want to get back to that Michigan game, but Jackson Smith and Jigba actually said after the 2021 season ended, yeah, we want to beat Michigan because we want to beat Michigan every single year. We build the entire program around beating Michigan. But what he said was we want to get back to game number 15. 15th game on only 2 team schedules is the national championship. And quite frankly, it is the only thing that Ryan Day and Ohio State have not done together. Like, that's phenomenal to really think about the impact he's had on that program, which is the largest fan base in all of the country and is one of the proudest fan bases in all the country. He's shouldered that burden really, really well. Penn State, you have our support to make it a ball game, because Lord knows we would love to see a ball game and see somebody other than Notre Dame challenge Ohio State, but I don't think that is the most important or the toughest game on the schedule for the Buckeyes. Producer Tyler, what else we got?
All right, so the next one, let's shift gears here. Let's go to the Big 12, because you asked who will win the Big 12 title, and our first response comes from Sooner Magic, who, by the way, as I was going through your replies, Sooner Magic is in there a lot. Sooner Magic says Oklahoma will still win. The best thing for them to succeed this year was a loss.
You know, that is a man that has watched a lot of Oklahoma football over the past 20 years. That's what I can tell you from that, because up until, I believe, 2021, it had been something like 12 years since Oklahoma had made it through the month of October without a loss, right? Somehow, some way, find a way to lose to Kansas State, Texas Christian, Texas Tech, Iowa State, whomever, and then they bounce back and they run the table for the rest of October, and famously hadn't taken a loss in the month of November in the Lincoln Riley era until he took a loss in November in the Lincoln Riley era and then off to Southern California. I see it. I understand that you're trying to put some voodoo, to sprinkle some magic on the Sooners, if you will. But hey, dog, like, they ain't running wishbone. It ain't 1985, and everybody else can play. Now, I made this point once before. I'll make this point again. You're going to have to find a new way to win at the University of Oklahoma. With Bob Stoops, you brought in the idea of defense being dominant, but you also had an air raid offense that has had legendary quarterback play. All right? Like, think about the guys that have come through the University of Oklahoma at quarterback. From Josh Heupel, who Torrance Marshall went to go get his Heisman back from Florida State, right? All the way through to Jason White, Heisman winner. Sam Bradford, Heisman winner, #1 overall pick. Sammy Finesse with the NFL contracts, right? All the way through to Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray. And in between there, we weren't bad, right? Landry Jones has seriously almost every statistical passing record that there is at the University of Oklahoma. And Trevor Knight beat Nick Saban in the Sugar Bowl. And as you'll find out a little bit later on, Trevor Knight has done something Arkansas ain't done since I was a senior in high school. Beat Nick Saban. Trevor friggin' Knight, y'all. So I hear you in the glass half empty part of this conversation about how a loss is going to help them propel them back to the Big 12 championship. But you know what, Doug? I don't want to have to live that way. I'm 35 going on 86 here because the stress this team puts me under every single year. Backs against the wall, might as well be on the right underneath, play like a champion. Yeah, Tyler, I didn't forget about it. We're going to have conversation about this ongoing. Look, I need just 1 year where we ain't got to do this. We ain't got to go straight to the replies talking about, hey, look, we take a loss and then we run the table. This ain't Lincoln Riley's Big 12 anymore. You know what I'm saying? It ain't Bob Stoops' Big 12 anymore. Everybody else can play, and that terrifies me. I guess maybe, because I think that Oklahoma is fallible. But, you know, we're also not just coming off of a loss at night. And you know how Oklahoma, Tyler, have we talked about how Oklahoma fans love a night game? And everybody was geared up for the night game, and they did the LED lights at the night game, and then they got sunned 41-34 in the night game. Maybe, just maybe, Tyler, big noon kickoff is a good thing for the University of Oklahoma. I don't know. Might be something there. Somebody's going to hear that, and somebody's going to get in my Twitter mentions, Tyler.
Yeah, it was a little reminiscent of that 2012 game at night in Norman. Stripes and all.
James Harden got traded that night, too. That was in the press box covering that game. That was a bad night.
Yeah.
Bad night, man. Tydale stunning us. Bob Diaco. Tyler.
Big game,
we
Bobby
got sunned by Bob Diaco.
I remember that. He has great hair, though. All right, I want to get to the next response. This is going to hurt a little bit. This one comes from RCJ Graves. RCJ didn't even say anything. He just put a picture of Adrian Martinez giving a little bow to the Oklahoma crowd last Saturday. So I'm going to take this as them saying that Kansas State's going to win the Big 12.
Hey, when I saw this in the rundown, to peel back the curtain a little bit, I was like, okay, all right, I understand. Producer Tyler saw it, and now I have seen it. You know what? He bowed when he scored that last touchdown in front of the home crowd. Adrian Martinez coming in saying, no, I'm Batman. Watch me. And here's the performance. You're welcome. Look, Kansas State is not going to win the Big 12 championship. Now that I said that, probably going to go to the top of the list of contenders to win the Big 12 championship, but Kansas State is not going to win the Big 12 championship. Y'all are fine. Y'all are fine to good. You beat LSU in a bowl game where we got to hear, our man, his man, Brian Kelly out here all of a sudden being Cajun after growing up in Massachusetts and coaching at Cincinnati, Central Michigan, and South Bend, Indiana. Yeah, just back to his roots, watching his team get sunned on by the Kansas State Wildcats. EMAW. You know what I'm saying? EMAW, just don't expect to EMAW to a Big 12 championship, because as much as I like to talk about Chris Klieman winning national championship, that's still something he ain't got. Big 12 championship, and it ain't just beating Oklahoma. That means you're going to get to the Big 12 championship, and that's what I'm trying to tell everybody, Tyler. Everybody in this league can play this year, man. Texas and West Virginia are at the bottom of this league. Texas and West Virginia are going to be playing to try to see who can be 8th instead of 10th in this league. Think about that for a second. I mean, you made this point a couple weeks ago, and I flitted it away like an idiot. That is reminiscent of 2007, right? We were saying, hey, this feels a lot like 2007. I said, hey, man, when Kansas becomes number 3 team in the country, talk about 2007. I ranked Kansas last week, Tyler. You see that?
I did.
I ranked Kansas because they're 4-0. We got Kansas putting out Kansas paraphernalia going. In case y'all didn't know, Jalen Daniels ranked 2,500 in the world, and he's sunning the rest of this league and the rest of college football. I can't call it, so I'm going to just say Kansas State's not going to win the Big 12 championship, but I'm going to throw it back to you. Kansas State going to win the Big 12 championship?
No.
Okay.
All right. That's our Kansas State segment. All right, moving on to the next one. This one comes from the cynic who says Oklahoma State.
They're due. I mean, they got 6 inches short of winning it last year against Baylor. I mean, Spencer Sanders throws 4 interceptions to Baylor. Maybe they win that game. They get them again this weekend for a spot, what I think is going to be a spot in the Big 12 championship. Maybe it'll be a rematch of those two. But if Spencer Sanders is hell-bent on throwing Baylor the football again, I don't think they're going to win again. And, as much as we want to talk about Spencer Sanders being great this year, he ain't played nobody, Paul. It's just Baylor, at least I got to see him against Brigham Young. I think Brigham Young's a good football team, right? I also know that Baylor replaced a 1,600-yard running back that was once a linebacker for them with a dude that was ranked 710th in the 2021 recruiting class named Richard Reese from Bellevue, Texas, and he leads them in rushing this year. I'm saying you're going to have to play clean football if you expect to win a Big 12 championship, and playing clean football against Baylor and Texas and Oklahoma, for that matter, ain't exactly what Spencer Sanders has been hell-bent on doing. And as much as Mike Gundy is hell-bent on making Spencer Sanders his starting quarterback, so much so that Shane Illingworth said, I'm going to the transfer portal. I don't think that Oklahoma State is going to win, but it would not shock me if Oklahoma State won the Big 12 championship, Tyler.
Yeah, I think we'll learn a lot about Oklahoma State this weekend. They had to think about that loss all offseason. Now they get their chance of revenge against Baylor. So we'll learn a lot about them this weekend. Let's move on to our next one. This one comes from a former guest of the show. Angelo Dawkins says Kansas.
I love Angelo. I love the Street Profits. We want the smoke. The Profits is up. He's my favorite of the two. No disrespect, Montez. Angelo to the heart, man. Angelo to the heart. He's wrong. I love him. He's right about his Buckeyes. I hope his Bengals do great. He's wrong about Kansas. I think that Kansas could shock everybody by making the Big 12 championship game, and I would not turn down nothing but my collar to see Lance Leipold and the Kansas Jayhawks in the Big 12 championship game because, one, I was early in on a Kansas Jayhawks train, early in by at least 18 months. One, because I really like it when Kansas plays good football because I like the idea of a basketball school claiming to be a football school, but also that is a genuinely good football coach who has convinced his team that he is about them.
I agree. I love Kansas. Great story. Whole lot of fun. Jalen Daniels, great player. I like the Cyclones this weekend. All right, let's move on to our next one. This one comes from Lucky Stuff, and I've got all sorts of questions about this response. Lucky Stuff says, as a Baylor fan, I would love to see Texas Tech win a Big 12 championship. RJ, how do you feel about that?
I don't know what's my man Lucky Stuff? Yep. Lucky, do you know if you're coming or going? Is it upside down when you're right side up where you at, dog? Is east west or west east? Does the sun rise in the west and set in the east? Because Baylor is supposed to have one rival in this entire conference. It's supposed to be Texas Tech. They don't even play the games in Waco or Lubbock for that reason. They get to go play at Jerry World because they're trying to make Wreckham and Sickham into something. and it ain't materialized into something. Now all of a sudden I got the Baylor fans saying, I want nice things for Tech. Look, long as I'm alive, you will not get me to say things like, it'd be nice to see Oklahoma State win a Big 12 championship game. For what? For who? For why? Nah, man, pick a side. Stand aside. You know what I'm saying? Nah, it'd be nice to see Texas win a national championship. For who? For what? How? So there's that. But I guess my man is inspired by Joey Maguire's WWE promo at the conclusion of sunning Texas 37-34. One of the best promos that I have seen from a head coach in some time. And remember, we used to get a lot of good promos. Steve Spurrier used to just hammer them. Lane Kiffin used to hammer them. Every now and again, we could even get Nick Saban or Kirby Smart to say something nice or harsh about their opponent as they're trying to get in the college football playoff. This is the first time all year I got to see somebody stand on top of something and yell back down at them, you ain't no good, and we beat you down, and everybody got to come get the belt from us. Maybe that's what Lucky Stuff is absolutely on board for, but you can't claim to be Baylor fan one and do that, dog.
Are they confused? Because, like you said, the handle is literally at Be the Baylor fan one. And unless they were so convinced by Maguire's speech after that game against Texas, is it like in Rocky IV when the Russians started cheering for Rocky at the end of the fight for reasons still unknown to everyone who watched that movie? I'm just so confused, especially a team within Baylor's conference. Why would you want to see any other team other than your own win the Big 12, let alone a rival? I don't know.
Hey. We have lots of questions for you, Lucky Stuff. Go ahead and send us some more tweets.
Yeah, thanks for listening, though. Thanks for watching the show. All right, hopefully next week we'll get a follow-up or maybe another question. Okay, we're moving on. This one was tweeted by you. You asked, which top 10 team is most likely to be upset this weekend? A, Alabama, B, Michigan, or C, Clemson. So let's go to our first response here. This one comes from Bongo Blue 2, who came at us with the graphs. We've got research on this, analytics. Bongo Blue 2 says, Iowa's offense is so bad, I really don't see much there for Michigan to be upset. It's not just bad, it's really bad with the graph to prove it. RJ, how do you feel about it?
A couple things to unpack here. First, I have a book that was reviewed by Kyrgyz Star and got a Kyrgyz Star review, and I still make typos in the tweets. Sorry about that. It should be which of the top 10 or which top 10 team. But you know what? I appreciate everybody for getting on board and responding to my typographical error. That's number one. Number two is, yo, dog, stop snatching other people's graphs to make your point without citing them. You know what I'm saying? You ain't put that together. You snatched that off the Twitters. And then didn't HT know it? Nobody. Didn't via nobody. So I'm not even going to come out here and give you any respect for this, man. We all know what Iowa's offense is. It's awesome is what it is. It's run by the punter. Tory Taylor out here going, I'm running away with the Ray Guy Award. Forget the Heisman, okay? And not for nothing, but the offense looking at the defense like what they need us for. What we eat up clock. That's what we do. We stand still while they get a breather. Because I don't know if you know this or not, but the Iowa defense has allowed 23 points all year. The Iowa defense has also scored 16 points this year. I'm saying roll safe with the knowledge. You don't need no offense if you got a defense that can score, baby. You don't need no offense if your punter is routinely nailing people inside the 20-yard line and letting the defense go to work. Nah, man, I'm not here for the Iowa offensive slander or libel in this respect because it's too easy. Tyler, do you need an offense to go and beat anybody in the game of football? Like, theoretically.
Me and you are on the opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to Iowa. Like, you enjoy watching the Rock fight. It pains me. But we'll get into that more later, though. Let's go to our next response. This one comes from producer Jesse. Wow, another producer chiming in. Producer Jesse says Clemson. So how do you like the Wolfpack's chances against the Tigers this weekend?
So I went and checked out this Twitter profile because I'm like, anybody calling themselves a producer on this show is going to have to be producing something. You're going to have to show me some results here. We're not just giving that title out, all right? Like, we don't say lead producer and senior producer on this show because it's nice. So you're going to have to come up with some tape. You're going to have to come up with some hosts. You're going to have to show me something, dog. You can't just be in here saying producer whatever in your Twitter handle. Clemson, okay, cool, fine. Yeah, I mean, that's the one that I would pick. You know, it's also the one that I did pick because I said North Carolina State is going to be good. And now Devin Leary and your mans they're going to have to step up in Death Valley. The original Death Valley, for all of you LSU fans, I actually made the video on the channel way before I got here at Fox Sports. You can go look it up because I even got the LSU SID saying, no, Death Valley is in Clemson, South Carolina. It is not in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Don't fight me, fight facts. They be facts, though. They be facts, though. Just like North Carolina State has a great opportunity to beat Clemson and take control of the ACC. It's always fun to look at the schedule and be able to circle a game in each one of these conferences and say, hey, that game is going to reshape not just the conference, but college football, depending on how it goes. North Carolina State has an opportunity to do this because then everybody looks at Dave Doran and the Wolfpack and what are they going to do on the way to the rest of the ACC, and looking at Clemson and going, see, I thought that Dabo was going to have a down year after losing both his offensive and defensive coordinator. Even right now, as we sit here talking about this, everybody's like, no, Dabo going to figure it out. It's going to be fine. And you know what? It's a good time to be on the Clemson train, Tyler, because DJ Uiagalelei is actually starting to play like the dude we thought he was going to be 2 years ago. Yeah,
I was just going to say, when I was looking at the responses to this, a lot of people were saying Clemson, and that's actually the reason why I don't think it's going to be Clemson. I think they really found something last week with DJ. You're right. It was the best he's looked probably since that Notre Dame game in 2020, which has honestly carried him up to this point because people are always like, well, we saw that. We know he has it in him. But we'll see this Saturday. They got another big game. Let's move on to our next one. This one comes from Yosef Benji, who says, Clemson playing a tough NC State team, but Alabama better play to their potential because Arkansas is a good team. I'm guessing Yosef is saying that Alabama is most likely, but honestly, in all of your responses, and there were a lot, not one person had the guts to say it was Alabama. This is the closest I could get. So do you think Alabama has a chance to get upset this weekend?
Yeah, they got a chance. Yeah, there's always a chance. But I think that the listeners of the number one college football show are exceedingly smart because they understand history, right? That's what everybody wants to come after me for is tradition, right? This peer pressure from dead people. But in this case, you look at Nick Saban's resume, as I mentioned, he lost to Trevor Knight. You know who he has not lost to? The University of Arkansas. Like, the man is undefeated since 2007, and they vacated that win to Arkansas. Doesn't matter who's been in charge, doesn't matter who the quarterback is, doesn't matter where they play the game. Last year, Arkansas got close 42-35, convinced us all, if I say convinced us all, convinced the rest of y'all that Arkansas is a good football team by how well they acquitted themselves in that loss. Now, they also got their heads handed to them by Georgia in Sanford. I think that's on the table in Tuscaloosa because Bryant-Denny is not an easy environment for anybody. It's the reason why Alabama looks vulnerable on the road as they did against Texas. I think that they love playing at Tuscaloosa, and they should. I think that Sam Pittman knows better than most what it means to go and try to win a football game there. And after how closely they were played by A&M, a game that I thought they needed to win by double-digit points to make me believe they can go into Tuscaloosa and come out with a win, they're going to have to pull some magic out. Now, it's possible because the pit boss has been pulling miracles for the last 3 years. I just don't see it as likely, man. There's nothing in there to say this is the Arkansas team that beats the Alabama team, except to say, hey, we got to line up and go get it because, you know, passion, competition, they don't give a damn about tradition. They don't give a damn about wins and loss records. Did you show up to play today? Ask Appalachian State that question, right? They got an answer for you. Ask Middle Tennessee that question. They got an answer for you. Perhaps Arkansas will be on its money in the bag and go do us all a service by getting the first win against Alabama Nick Saban since I graduated high school in 2006, Tyler.
That's a long time.
It's a long time.
I just don't see it with Arkansas. Maybe if they had beaten Texas A&M last week, but it's hard for me to imagine that after suffering that heartbreaking loss, they're going to be able to bounce back and be as locked in as they need to be to beat Alabama. I just don't see it. But it's our last response. This one comes from Amanda to the Max, and I love this. Amanda says, honestly could see all three, but Clemson for sure, any given Saturday. I can't see all three, but if Amanda is right here, now we can start talking about 2007 in the comps.
Amanda, Team Chaos. We're on Team Chaos together. It's a beautiful family you have in your Twitter profile. Appreciate the response, and I'm for that. That would be so much fun. That is awesome. Look, we've been looking for a real good blood week to happen. We thought we got it a couple weeks ago, right? We saw Notre Dame go down. Next couple weeks, saw Oklahoma go down. Still waiting on somebody to come after Ohio State or Alabama, because I guess Texas did it, but wasn't able to finish it, or Michigan, Clemson. Like, yes, I'm here for that because that's what I believe the sport is at its best. There are those that believe when the brands are the brands, right? The major brands of college football are all undefeated and they're all doing great, that's good for the sport because, well, everybody knows what's going on. I, like you, Amanda, am a football connoisseur. I love all the footballs, okay? The ones that are played on Tuesdays, the ones that are played on Mondays, Sundays, but mostly on Saturdays. If we could get all 3 upsets in some sort of wild-ass parlay on Saturday, nobody will be happier about it than me. Also, Amanda to the max. That's one hell of a way to introduce yourself to the internet, is it not, Tyler?
Not just any Amanda. Amanda to the max. Amanda wants chaos this weekend. I'm all for it. That'd be awesome.
I'm for it too, man. I'm excited about this weekend of college football. I will be in Iowa City doing a watch party that you can watch on the Twitters at CFB on Fox. We will not, though, be doing a live Saturday reaction show. We'll get into the nitty-gritty on Sunday. And you know what? We'll probably be in the middle of some games that are still being played on Sunday due to some inclement weather that's on its way. For those of y'all that are in the path of Hurricane Ian, please be safe. We'll be praying for you here. And if you can find a way to let us bring you some joy, we would love nothing more than to be that for you. All right. That is going to do it for this episode of the #1 college football show. My thanks as always to our lead producer, Tyler Wojak. Our senior producer is Catherine Donnelly. Our director is John Marcus. Our social media maven is Javion Duncan. Our lead of screening is Rachel Cohn. I'm the host, RJ. We will see y'all on Sunday. Deuces.